Hello and welcome to Zarathustra Summer, where I go over some passages in Zarathustra and discuss what Zarathustra is doing and what does he want from us. This part is on a section titled "Of the Compassionate," and it's one of Nietzsche's usual critiques of compassion and pity. But it's good in Zarathustra to kind of contextualize this within the kind of overall project of Zarathustra, which we've gone over in other sections, where he's trying to act as a sort of inspirational figure to inspire a kind of project of becoming the Ubermensch, the kind of overcoming of nihilism. You have to have to posit the becoming of the Ubermensch. So, let's go back to the start. Start with that. So, um, he says, "Truly, I do not like them, the compassionate, who are happy in their compassion. They are too lacking in shame. If I must be compassionate, I still do not want to be called compassionate. And if I am compassionate, then it is preferably from a distance." So, in a sense, Zarathustra is trying to teach us how to deal with the suffering of others. So, within this project of Zarathustra, he definitely does have an affection for others. He's trying to create a group of followers of which he deeply cares about. So he's trying to sort of understand these kind of social impulses towards affection and solidarity, but he's trying to posit it in a way which is liberated from pity. Pity being kind of an incompatible social emotion for this project of the Ubermensch. Um, so he says, if you have a suffering friend, be a resting place for his suffering, but a resting place like a hard bed, a camp bed. Thus you will serve him best. And should your friend do a wrong, then say, I forgive you what you did to me, but that you did it to yourself, how could I forgive that? Thus speaks all great love. It overcomes even forgiveness and pity. So the sort of love which Zarathustra wants to express towards his followers um, is not is not the sort of emotion of pity. Um, it's a Nietzsche is clearly deeply suspicious of these sorts of emotions, and that's evident throughout a lot of his work. The interesting thing about Zarathustra is not he's not just being polemic against compassion and pity and these sorts of impulses which are given to us by um, well, many different today, certainly many different um, uh, forces and ideologies and social beliefs and so on. But for him, primarily through the history of and influence of Christianity. So, how do we kind of understand affection and solidarity which isn't pitiful, and why is pity so bad, right, for this Ubermensch project? Um, so in another slightly later on in this section, he says what I think is the next best quote so far in the book, second only to "Man is a tightrope stretched out between I can't remember what it is exactly, gods and animals." Um, the only that wasn't the exact quote, but I can't remember the exact line. But that is so far my favorite quote. My second favorite quote is this: "Thus spoke the devil to me once. Even God has his hell. It is his love for man. And I lately heard him say these words: God is dead. God has died of his pity for man." So God has God's weakness is his love for man. So God has love for man, just like Zarathustra has love for his followers. And in the context of suffering, how do you help those who are suffering? I think Zarathustra is warning us that pity won't help either party here. God was destroyed by his pity for man. So a human like Zarathustra is certainly going to be destroyed by his pity for other humans, his followers. And this is interesting because um, if we associate the death of God with his pity for man, we can then sort of see how God died a little bit better. This is one of the only things in Nietzsche I've really seen where he actually gives you some evidence of like what killed God. Because we always say God is dead, but like, you know, what? And you know, I think it's roughly true to say that the Nietzschean death of God is something to do with a loss of belief, but it's a very subtle loss of belief, which I think it's obvious in Nietzsche that we didn't really even realize happened until it's too late. And if you think about the sort of hierarchy going on here, if you think about Zarathustra's followers looking at him as an inspirational figure, if you think of God as this higher kind of ontological, the highest of all figures, the highest of all beings, the emotion of pity sort of, it almost androgenizes and mediocritizes the dynamic and the relationship between the higher and the lower. God is dragged down to hell. God is destroyed through his pity. And I think maybe we can infer from that if a belief system is too, like Christianity was, at least by Nietzsche's evaluation, if a belief system is too bound up in feelings of helping the sick, helping the weak, suffering, helping those who are suffering, then it can't really help anybody. And second to that, it's going to drag down the higher inspirational figures and forces, which could inspire people and through that inspiration lift them up. It sort of androgenizes and mediocritizes that vertical relationship between the leader and the follower, between the God and the human. It makes everything this mediocre and the same. So there's a sort of within, and I think what Zarathustra is often trying to do is he's trying to reestablish. I mean, even look at the cover of Zarathustra. It's a man standing high up on a mountain, looking down over the mountain onto the horizon. So I think what Zarathustra is often trying to do is he's trying to reestablish sorts of spiritual highness and lowerness and forms of inspiration and uplifting in a world in which the most uplifting and highest of all beings, God, is dying or is dead. And thus, in order to do that, you have to figure out like how he died. So if you, again, to kind of repeat myself, if you have a belief system which is too bound psychologically and socially bound to motivating people towards pity and helping this weak and the suffering and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, you can think about that stuff today with wokeness, for example. It's so emotionally exhausting because we have to feel sorry for every single bloody thing we see every day, and we have to be guilty constantly, in debt to everything. And if this happens, actually, the whole belief system is going to basically, the whole spiritual essence is going to crumble into this mulchy nothingness. And at the end, he says, all creators, however, are hard. He says, I offer myself to my love and my neighbor as myself. That is the language of all creators. All creators, however, are hard. So you can almost see this as a sort of tough love theology. Creators have to be hard. Creators are not there to pity you. Creators are not there to make everything easy and comfortable for you. Creators are not there to um, justify all of your failings and excuse all of your vices or whatever. Creators have to be hard. Creators want to help you by how do you say, by giving you a resting place, which is a hard bed, a camp bed, as he says. So true leaders and true creators can only help people that are suffering or people that are in a lower position to them by what we might call a sort of tough love theology.